All right, peace and love. Before we get started, just real quick, if we could do a roll call. Brother Lloyd Douglas L., Chairman of Moslem Mission 30, Columbus, Ohio. Peace.
Islam, this is Sister Drew Douglas L. from Columbus, Ohio.
Islam, Brother Simon Bay, Mission 30, Columbus, Ohio.
Islam, Brother Cole Bay, Mission 30, Dayton, Ohio.
Islam, Stacy Lachey, Cincinnati, Ohio. Mission 30.
Islam, Shaw Bay, Temple 30, Dayton, Ohio.
Islam, Jackson Bay, Temple 30, Dayton, Ohio.
Islam, Hashem Jabbar, Montgomery County, Ohio.
Peace. Ross Davis L., Summit County, Ohio. Mission 30, Temple 30.
Islam, Victoria Pegler L., Columbus, Ohio.
Davis L., Akron, Ohio.
Islam, Sister Nadine Johnson L., Columbus, Ohio.
Sister Malika Williams, Akron, Ohio. Malika Williams L., I'm sorry.
All right, Islam, to the brother says Bronson. Would you please let us know where you're calling from?
Yes, sir. I'm calling from Cincinnati right now, but I'm from Dayton.
Okay, wonderful. In the chat, would you please share your email or phone number with us? We take a roll at all of our meetings.
Yeah. Could you direct me as how to do that exactly?
Sure. If you're on a phone, you just need to touch the screen to bring up the options.
Okay.
It depending, I guess, on what kind of phone you have, it might be 3 little dots, but you'll
okay,
where you can bring up options, and then
yes,
you can actually bring up the chat.
Okay. So then you need my, I'm sorry, you need my what again?
Just name, location, and email or phone number.
Okay.
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. Gratitude.
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
All right. We're going to go ahead and get started up. All meetings are to be opened and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I ask that you all rise, please, and face the east if you are able to. Please rise and face the east for the Moorish American prayer. We do this every time. We rise standing up straight, facing the east with our, we stand on the square, meaning your heels are together in a V shape, 45-degree angle. Put our arms up straight, hold 2 fingers up on the left, 5 on the right. Arms perpendicular.
Motion detected in the backyard.
Sorry about that. And please repeat after me. Allah.
Allah.
Father of the universe.
Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth.
Truth.
Peace.
Peace.
Freedom.
Freedom.
And justice.
And justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
My God.
And my salvation.
And my salvation.
By night and by day.
By night and by day.
Through his holy prophet.
Through his holy prophet.
Through Ali.
Through Ali.
Amen.
Amen.
Islam, Islam, Islamism. All right, I want to announce that this meeting is now open. First and foremost, we always rise giving the highest praise to the Most High, the Father of the universe, our Father God Allah. We give honors to our divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali, for bringing us our divine creed and nationality so that we may learn to love instead of hate. We also give honors to the forerunner to the prophet, our brother Marcus Mosiah Garvey, for preparing the way for purity and love. We give honors to all the adepts, sheiks, and all the faithful Moors that make up the grand body of the Moorish divine and national movement. We also give honors to our first appointed Supreme Grand Sheikh, and that's by our prophet, and that is Brother E. Millie Ill. We give honors to our current Supreme Grand Sheikh, Brother K. Dandridgel. We also give honors to the Grand Council of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and honors to all Muslims on this call. Islam, Islam, Islamism. See, Brother Jackson Bey, would you please read the divine constitution and bylaws?
Islam, rise giving perfect praise to Allah, honors to the Prophet, Jurali, honors to my forefathers and foremothers, honors to the Asiatic nations, and honors to the Muslims all over the world. Salvation, Allah, unity, the Moorish Science Temple of America, the divine constitution and bylaws. Act 1, the Grand Sheikh and the chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce law with the assistance of the Prophet and the grand body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah's Friday is our holy day of rest because on a Friday, the first man was formed in flesh, and on the Friday, the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4, all members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are part and parcel of the government and must live a life accordingly. Act 5, this organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Pardon me. Act 6, with us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and partial of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, Black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slave holders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men, it's a new era of time now, and all men must proclaim their free national. And all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become part and partial of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father God Allah. Noble Drew Ali, founder, Moorish American prayer, Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. The Moorish Science Temple of America, home office of Noble Drew Ali, home office, Chicago, Illinois, USA. Islam, Islam, Islamism. Happy Holy Day, Muslims.
All right, Islam, gratitude, brother, gratitude. Thank you for reading that. All right, so I want to thank all Moors for coming here. Happy Holy Day to you. Before we get started, I do want to read a few pieces from our Moorish literature, and just want to reiterate on some things, why we do this, why we're coming together, why we congregate as the Moorish Science Temple of America, what it comprises. And we're also going to go over a lesson from our Holy Koran, chapter 44. I believe we did half of it last time, so we're just going to kind of roll through it, and then we're going to open the floor up to questions. So if you have any questions in general, whether you're a member or first time or whatever, just write your questions down. Don't forget them. We will open the floor up. All right. And as I said, before we go into the Quran, I do want to go over something real briefly. If you have the Moorish literature, that white booklet, please open up to page 40, Drew Ali in Time. Okay, I'm just going to read from this. Drew Ali in Time. Allah has sent us a prophet and sent him in time with a holy message, which is divine. All right. This is our prophet in these last days and times. He came to let the Asiatics of America know that they are of the ancient family of the Moors. His speech was to the Asiatics first. Why? Because they have been sinners since their departure from their forefathers' religion. Oh, sinners, why don't you hear the soul of Islam ringing in your ears? The prophet has said that if I were you, I would get ready before you are made to do so. Now come and pick up your forefathers and mothers' ancient and divine creed, which carries your national name indeed. It will entitle you to your rights, which you have been denied, because in 1774, your light was cut off from the ancient Moors, and that is why Allah has sent us a prophet in 1886. That's when Prophet Noble Drew Ali was born. In 1886, to prepare the light that was out. In 1925, the prophet said, I have mended the broken wires and have connected them to the higher power. So come on, Asiatics, don't you want to go? We were marching on to Canaan. I used to think that it was a city in the sky, but now I know it is here on earth. Don't you want your share? And just from reading that piece, it says in 1774, your light was cut off from the ancient Moors, and that is why Allah has sent us a prophet in 1886 to prepare the light that was out. Often we read from this piece quotes from a congregation of the legislation in Virginia, I believe. Hang on a second, I'm going to bring this up for you. In Virginia, the state assembly gathered and they were discussing our people. All right. And while they were discussing us, they were talking about extinguishing the capacity to perceive the light. And they're talking about us. All right. And so they're using that same language that our prophet was using for a reason. And they're talking about us. And this is all going to make sense because this is all in relation to us and why we do what we do, why we're here, why the prophet did this, why it's important that we come within the society that the prophet established for us. All right. Oh, hang on one second. Okay. All right. Here we go. Here we go. Getting the Zoom ready. Okay, here we go. All right, so yeah, that quote from Drew Ali in Time in 1774, your light was cut off from the ancient Moors, and that is why Allah has sent us a prophet in 1886 to prepare the light that was out. Okay, so the prophet speaking about us, the light was cut off, and then we have this real quote. Now this, okay, here we go. Now this quote, I took this from the book, The Secrets of Freemasonry by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the quote is from the Virginia House of Delegates in 1832. Everyone can look that up. It's legit. Henry Berry was speaking to the delegates, and he's a lawmaker, and he's talking about how we have, as far as possible, closed every avenue by which light may enter the slave's mind. If we could extinguish the capacity to see the light, our work would be complete. They would then be on the level with the beasts of the field, and we will be safe. So on one hand, they're speaking about us from a spiritual perspective, a metaphysical perspective, talking about our connection to divinity, right? Cutting us off from that, giving us Christianity. Christianity automatically makes you born in sin, right? You are born in sin because of something that Adam and Eve did. When, as Muslims practicing Islam, we know that Muslims do not believe that. True Muslims, we don't accept that. We understand that in Islam, we are born with the perfect capacity, or the capacity to unfold all of the might of Allah within us. So we're not born in sin. So that's on one level, that's what they're talking about. But then they're also talking about cutting us off from our line of descent. Why? Because our line of descent connects us to the creators of civilization that even civilized them at one point in time. Right. And so if you look at the rest of this quote from The Secrets of Freemasonry, it's just speaking that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was a high-ranking Freemason. I think it was a 32nd or 33rd degree. And he understood that, okay, they're speaking about us. They're using this terminology, which isn't common to common man. But they're speaking on an esoteric level. They're speaking about secrets, disconnecting us from who we truly are, and even extinguishing our capacity to see it, to perceive of it, which is really heinous. And that's why we're in the condition that we're in. And so one reason why I wanted to bring that up is because a lot of us may get this knowledge, whether we're getting it from the internet or the streets or anything, and people get some of it and they think, well, that's it. All I need to know is know that I'm a Moor. Look at this. This is from the ceiling at the Grand Lodge of England, the oldest Freemasonic lodge in the world. And I'm not saying any of this to down Freemasonry. No, we don't do that. We don't talk bad about anyone, but we have to speak the truth. We have to tell the truth. So this is in there. And if you don't know anything, you'll just go and just see that and think nothing of it. But if you know that you're a Moor, you know that that's our flag. That's our flag under the eye of providence, right there. And it's hidden there, right? This knowledge is kept from us. So people, like I was saying before, people are getting this information from all over the place. We're getting it from the internet, we're getting it in the streets. And it's wonderful because people are waking up to think, okay, yeah, I'm a Moor. But that's not it. That's not it. There's more to it than just this, okay? That's only one piece of the puzzle. Knowing is great. That's great. That reconnects you to something, but now you have to figure out that there's more to it than that. Now you realize that with that knowledge comes responsibility, because we can't just say that we're Moors. We have to actually be Moors. We have to actually be noble in our character, right? We have to be upstanding. We're in chapter 44 in the Quran, chapters 40 through 44, dealing with the lower self, the five foes of man. Why would we go over this? If we recognize the lower self, well, first off, having knowledge that there's a higher aspect of us and a lower aspect. This ties back into the light that they wanted to cut off from us, not even knowing that we have a higher and a lower self. And so we don't just want to know that, though. We study the Quran because it lets us know how to recognize our lower self. The thoughts that are emanating, that we may think that that's just your mind. That's just, no, these are thoughts coming from the carnal self. And then we going over our steps, our tools to subdue the lower self. And then you can see the chapters 36 through 38 about the higher self, 40 through 44 lower self, and then it's all encapsulated kind of into a category of knowledge of self. So this is truly having knowledge of self. And with the Prophet, before he started the Moorish Science Temple of America, he used to hand out cards that said, Noble Drew Ali, the Egyptian adept, or maybe Thomas Drew. Maybe that was before he took on the name Noble Drew Ali. Thomas Drew, Egyptian adept. All right. So with this information that he's returning to us about how to subdue our lower self, this is how to unfold Allah within you. And then nobody can rule over us. All right. And that's ancient wisdom, even predating Egypt. But since Egypt is one of the highest societies that was keeping this information going, that's what we'll associate it with. That's why you'll see it constantly throughout. Like this statue, the battle of Heru, Christ, and Set, devil, is within oneself. One must become Heru, Heru-ur, to conquer the lower demons of self. One then becomes Heru, Set, and using the lower nature to support their higher self. So you can say that the lower self is the devil, dragon, beast, Satan, Lucifer, right? But in all actuality, it's only like that because maybe we don't even have knowledge of this. We don't even know about the higher and lower self. And that means that the lower self is in control. That's the only reason why, is because it's out of balance. If you ever read the Bible and you read about something like, say, for example, you'll read about Jesus riding into Jerusalem or Bethlehem on a donkey. This is once again demonstrating of riding the beast, riding the lower self, being in control in the proper status. Whenever you see something like this, whether it's from ancient Egypt or anywhere where they're subduing a beast, whether they're stepping on it or just in any way subduing the beast, it's about being in control, the proper balance, higher self in control, and then the lower self is the servant. All right. And actually, when things are in balance, everyone's happy. The lower self is actually better off. It's not equipped to be running things on this level. Right. It's a consciousness that was just for keeping the body alive, assisting us in having this worldly experience in fleshly bodies. Okay. And so this knowledge was returned to us. And that's why, back to Drew Ali in time, that's why it says that he came to return the light to us. All right. That's why this is the biggest thing. It's easy to overlook that. A lot of people may not even, I hate to say this, but a lot of people may not even have any interest in this portion of it. Right? The working on your lower self, subduing your lower self. The chapters that we're going over, these are the boring chapters, right? People want to hear what we're about to get into, like next week, chapter 45, the divine origin of the Asiatic nations, and so on, where we're talking about how our ancestors have been over here since before the continent split up. That's amazing too. It's especially amazing that the prophet put that in there almost 100 years ago, right? It's amazing. But this is important. We can't overlook this. This is an everyday battle going on inside of us. And if you take it seriously and look over this on your own sometimes too, not just when we study together, but if you look over this on your own and we all apply this to our lives, this is how you unfold Allah within you. Nothing can hold you down. And then we build our society off of these principles as well. Nothing can hold our society down. All right. And this is also how in the 1920s, the prophet was able to move how he was, where they had temples in various cities, several states, and where every temple is, there's businesses. So they're breaking bread with each other. They're making money. And they're doing this at a time where people of European descent were attacking our cities, attacking our towns. They're suffering through the Great Depression. They didn't want to see us doing good. So why were the Moors able to move differently? They're moving off of these principles, and then they have common ties that bind them together. They're able to protect and defend what they have as well, but they're moving differently, okay? It's all about subduing the lower self. It's extremely important. We can't overlook that. And that's why we do what we do. Just want to read one more thing too. All right. Well, actually, two things real quickly. Nicknamed When the forefathers of the Moorish Americans were brought to this nation, they had a nationality and a name, but in order to separate them from the achievements of their fathers, a name was given to them which had no connection whatever with the founders of civilization. They were nicknamed Negroes. All right, so I'm not going to read this whole thing, but that's really important. That's what we're doing. So everything is organized. We actually have laws. Our Quran is law. The divine constitution and bylaws, that's law. Additional laws. We also have the Quran questionnaire. Everything within here is law, and it gives us structure. This is how we conduct ourselves. This is how we conduct our societies, our villages, our communities, our nation, even on a grander scale. And so this enables us to all get on code. There's certain things that Moorish American Muslims are not supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be able to look out for ourselves, our nation. You know, if we don't know this, anyone can come in and kind of distract us, say, well, what about the gays? What about them? What about them? What about him and her and everyone else? And they'll get them to get off code, but they can't do that to Moorish American Muslims. All right. We're able to get on code and look out for ourselves. We have local agendas, local strategies, but then we also have national strategies, national agendas. And then if there's something that prevents you from participating in the uplifting acts for your own nation, then you gotta go. you need to turn in your card, turn in your turban and fez, and go do your own thing. Right? But Moorish American Muslims, we don't act like that. We know what to do. We can work together, and we have local, national strategies, and then we also have divine principles, divine laws on how to conduct ourselves. So that's one reason why. Hang on a second. I wanted to read the Moorish Science Temple of America. Also, that's on page 51 in Moorish literature. The Moorish Science Temple of America was founded by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Aside from the fact that it is a legally organized religious corporation, it is building on human needs. To this desirable end, in time, legitimate means will be found to dispense charity and provide for the mutual assistance of its members in times of distress, to aid in the improvement of health, and to encourage the ownership of better homes, to find employment for our members, to teach those fundamental principles which are desired for our civilization, such as obedience to law, respect and loyalty to government, tolerance and unity. And with that, just in saying that, so we're not just saying, oh, it's just the spirituality. We're just learning about the lower self and all that. No, we want to take care of our earthly needs as well and be successful, right? That's important. And that's why everywhere there's a temple, you have businesses, Moorish owned. We can work with each other and eventually take up trade and everything with other nations. It is most earnestly hoped that the Moorish Science Temple of America will not in any way be confused with any Back to Africa movement. Such is not important in so as far as American citizens of our group colonizing Africa are concerned. And he would have had to say this because a lot of members were coming from Marcus Garvey's UNIA movement. We of the Moorish Science Temple of America, like countless other American citizens, know that we must live together here in America in harmony, friendship, and goodwill, whatever our race and creed may be. And just in stating that, this can't be attacked, right? We're not coming out here talking radical, just saying anything reckless, calling white people crackers or something like that. We're not doing that. And I know I shouldn't even say white, Europeans. We're not doing that. We're not saying things that are opening you up to attack, right? They can be flipped against you. It is only from a purely religious standpoint, it seems at this time, that we differ from a large number of our fellow Americans. I'm actually going to skip the rest of this paragraph. We are interested in freeing ourselves and our children from the greatest plight, economic slavery. We believe this can best be done by encouraging patronizing and establishing our own business enterprises and cultivating our own acres of land. We welcome into our folds men and women of all groups, of all sections, all trades, occupations, and professions of sound mind and good character. We are friends in service of humanity. We are dedicated to the purpose of elevating the moral, social, and economic status of our people. We have set about to do this through a wide, comprehensive program embodying the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Those are our divine principles that we stand on: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. That's the Moorish Science Temple of America. That's in Moorish literature. And just wanted to read that so that people understand, like, this is where we're coming from. Okay, so, you know, from one standpoint, people see the knowledge and information that's out there, and they make the connection that we're Moors, and that's great. If you look at this and you know that that's not just a coincidence, something like this, things that are taking place kind of hidden in plain view, you know that there must be something more to the picture. That's great. But now we come in and we learn it. We have laws. We have a civilization. We have the same thing that everyone else in the world has. Okay. And it's really important to come in and know that so that we can move together as a unit. All right. And then we have divine principles that Allah raised one from amongst us, speaking our language. Right. That's what's in the Quran 3 different times. It says that Allah will raise a prophet, a Rasul, a messenger from amongst the people, speaking their language to deliver them back to Allah, to bring them back to Allah's ways. So that's very important to know, and know that this applies to us. I'm going to go ahead and go into chapter 44. Let's see. Hang on one second. Okay, let's see. Brother Jones Bay, Brother Jackson Bay, or Davis L. Can we get volunteer to read chapter 44?
I'm at work, Chief.
Peace.
Unless
I
Ross
yield
wants
the floor. I can do it.
Islam.
that.
Still listening, though.
All right, peace. Chapter 44, Holy Instructions from the Prophet, Misery. Feeble and insufficient as thou art, O man, and good, frail, and inconstant as thou art in pleasure. Yet there is a thing in which thou art strong and unshaken. His name is misery. It is the character of thy being, the prerogative of thy nature. In thy breast alone it resideth. Without thee there is nothing of it. And behold, what is its source but thine own passions? He who gave thee these, he who gave thee these gave thee also reason to subdue them, exert it, and thou shalt trample them under thy feet. Thine entrance into the world is it not shameful? Thy destruction, is it not glorious? Lo, men adorn the instruments of death with gold and gems, and wear them above their garments. He who begetteth a man hideth his face, but he who killeth 1,000 is honored. Know thou notwithstanding that in this is error. Custom cannot alter the nature of truth, neither can the opinion of man destroy justice. The glory and the shame are misplaced. There is but one way for a man to be produced. There are thousands by which which he may be destroyed. There is no praise or honor to him who giveth being to another, but triumphs and empires are rewards of murder. Yet he who hath many children hath as many blessings, and he who hath taken away the life of another shall not enjoy his own. While the savage curseth the birth of his son, the blesseth the death of his father. Doth he not call himself a monster? The greatest of all human ills is sorrow. To much of this thou art born unto, and not into it by thine own perversiveness. Grief is natural to thee, and it is always about thee. Pleasure is a stranger, and visiteth thee by times. Use well thy reason, and sorrow shall be cast behind thee. Be prudent, and the visits of joy shall remain long with thee. Every part of thy frame is capable of sorrow, but few and narrow are the paths that lead to delight. Pleasures can be admitted only simply, but pious rush in a thousand at times. As the blaze of straw fadeth as soon as it is kindled, so passeth away the brightness of joy, and thou knowest not what become of it. Excuse me. Sorrow is frequent, pleasure is rare, pain cometh of itself. Delight must be purchased. Grief is unmixed, but joy wanteth not its alloy of bitterness. As the soundest health is less perceived than the lightest malady, so the highest joy touches us less deep than the smallest sorrow. We are in love with anguish. We often fly from pleasure. When we purchase it, costeth it not more than its worth. Reflection is the business of man. A sense of his state is his first duty. But who remembereth himself a is that a B? Mine looks like a H. Looks like hoy.
Boy.
All right. Is it not in mercy then that sorrow is allotted unto us? Man foreseeth the evil that is to come. He remembereth it when it is past. He considereth not that the thought of affliction woundeth deeper than the affliction itself. Think not of thine pain, but when it is upon thee, and thou shalt avoid what most hurt thee. He who weepeth before he needeth, weepeth more than he needeth. And why? But that he loveth weeping. The stag weepeth not till the spear is lifted against him, nor do the tears of the beaver fall till the hound is ready to seize him. Man anticipateth death by the apprehension of it, and the fear is greater misery than the event itself. Be always prepared to give an account of thine action, and the best death is that which is least premeditated.
Islam. Gratitude, brother. Gratitude. All right. So just going back over this, remember the chapters 41 through 44 giving us the five folds of man. They were introducing us to inconstancy, weakness, the insufficiency of knowledge, and misery. Okay, and when you put those together with vanity, those are basically the five pillars of the instability of humanity. And the chapters don't just tell you about them; they're also describing these foes. These are foes of man. What that means is this is basically your lower self, right? This is describing these foes in detail and giving you the steps on how to overcome them. It's revealing it to you, right? For example, like with weakness is overcome by being content and moderate in the enjoyment of things. With inconstancy, it was overcome by firmness of mind and principles of action. The insufficiency of knowledge was overcome by the proper application of justice. And then misery is overcome by exercising reflection and reason prior to the actions being performed. Right? So when we use these tools, Now they're helping us to overcome the lower self. And in that, when you're overcoming the lower self, when you're subduing the lower self, every time you subdue the lower self, you're unfolding more of Allah within you. You're making the way for more knowledge from your higher self to come through, right? Because that voice from the higher self is so still, is so low that most of us don't even pay attention to it. Islam, I see Brother Cole Bay.
Islam, rise give honors to Most High Allah and rise give honors to Prophet Noble Joeli. I just wanted to camelback. This is a very deep chapter, especially 13 through 18. I'm not going to read it, but just like if you look at key points on that, when they're telling you the back and forth of what condition of most of our Asiatics are in. I use this. This is one of my chapters that I don't quote chapters to people that are not Moors, but our Asiatics. I use these because these comparisons are what we deal with. Like even when you go into 15, for example, it says, as the blaze of straw fadeth as soon as it's kindled, so passes away the brightness of joy. Now, if you know most people in our conditions that are not Moors, their joy is very short. And then they always got a story to tell about misery in his asset. And it goes from like 13, 18, it's really deeply, it just giving you comparisons of how those, and if you're in that lower self, that's going to be your state of mind. And it by looking at that and then in comparison, you can ask the person, do they want to be in that state of mind? Do you want to be in the state of mind that you only get joy every so often, and then it lasts for just a short time? And you know, the prophet tells you, that's not the way it is. Islam, I yield the floor.
Islam, you have to ask the person, are you ready to get off of this roller coaster? That's how it is when we get caught up out here. And it's very easy to get to be caught up in this cycle, right? It's never ended. And yes, it's amazing. So if we're not aware of these things and controlling our thoughts at all time and using these tools to control our thoughts, it can bring misery into your life easily, right? In this chapter 2, it's saying woman or man is inconstant in many things, but the one thing they're constant in is misery, just as Brother Colbert was saying. And it's told to us that this is a part of man or a part of woman. It's the source of our passions, right? It's the source of our passions. And so if our passions are uncontrolled, that leads us to perform shameful acts. That leads to further misery, right? That's why we're given these tools and the unseen tools to draw the circle around our passions, to make sure that they're within the bounds of righteousness, right? So sorrow is the greatest of all human ills, right? Because we're always doing some act and then regretting it later on. And the prophet didn't just mention this, though. He gave us the tools to overcome it, and that's by exercising reflection, right? That's the business of man, exercising reason, always prepared to give account of thine action, always. Like someone's watching you, right? Always prepared to give account of thine action, exercising reason. And then the tools that can assist us in subduing all 5 folds of man: the thinking, understanding, reasoning, and willing. All right, and these are basically the tools for success. And if we're doing this, we can sidestep almost any little trap that's been set up for our people to keep us down, to keep us at the bottom. We can sidestep all of that just by exercising this. And that's why this is important to study and to put into action, right? Does anybody else have anything they want to add or ask about this chapter? All right, if not, I do want to just open the floor up. If anybody has any questions in general, feel free to speak up. I see we have a hand raised, brother.
Yeah, so first of all, peace to everybody. I just came in a little bit late and was trying to follow along there at the end. Just if you could, just a brief refresher on what we was going over today and just a couple details for me, just so I can kind of review.
Okay, yeah, Islam. We just went over chapter 44. All right, it was over misery. Basically, chapters 40 through 44 dealing with the lower self. You can see on this chart says the 5 foes of man. And within this framework, within the Quran, it's not just telling you the 5 foes of man, it's giving you the steps to overcome them. Why do we want to overcome the 5 foes of man? Because every time you further subdue your lower self, you further unfold what? We have a higher and a lower self. So every time you subdue the lower self, which side of you do you think is being more exposed or being coming through a little stronger? The higher self, right? And so this is why we work on that. So with us going over misery, we're going over actually really the reasons why, the causes for misery in our own life. Understanding it so that you can recognize it when these opportunities, when these chances come up. We're the cause of our own misery. Basically, this is what this chapter is really telling you. It just to keep it simple, go straight to the point. It's telling you that we're the cause of our own misery. It's not because of this female that you're dealing with. It's not because of that, this, that, and the other. It's always us. It's always our own choices. We always had an opportunity to get better results, but we chose misery. Why? Because we're chasing after our passions. It's not like somebody put this hole in front of you and you just went and walked into the hole. No, you saw something on the other side of the hole that you wanted and you just went for it and fell into the hole, right? We going after our passions and, you know, it's out of control. Uncontrolled desires lead to our misery. Like nobody's willingly just going in to make themselves worse off. And uncontrolled passions are straight up out of the lower self. That is all the lower self is. It's all about self-gratification, even to your detriment. That's how come you could be, and not saying this to make anybody feel bad, but we could be extremely obese, morbidly obese. That's straight up lower self. Self-gratification, eating out of control to the point where it's killing you. That's following the passions, right? And that's an obvious example, right? And so on less subtle things, this leads to our misery as well. And there's like a million different examples of how it can lead to misery, having our passions out of control. And so, yeah, and that's why we go over the chapters over the lower self as well as the higher self. We go over it all so that we can be in balance. And we can recognize these thoughts that are coming up and also have tools on how to subdue them. And so as we subdue it, the higher self comes through more often. All right. We want to have a straight channel to the higher self. That's how you unfold Allah in you, Islam. All right. Oh, go ahead, brother.
I'd just like to add too, this is something that we kind of already been we grew up kind of hearing it, you know, think before you act, like to save you, or some people, some circles might be like, use your head to save your ass, excuse the language for the children and whatnot. But it's definitely something that's easily to overlook. Maybe try to cut corners or something.
Islam. And you know, as we look at ancient cultures, whether we're looking over here in the Americas or we're looking over in Egypt, it was all about subduing the lower self. They're carving it in stone. Sometimes they're building entire temples, buildings out of solid stone, and that whole building is representative of the higher and lower self. The Sphinx in Egypt. Everybody knows about the Sphinx, right? It's got the head of a man or a woman and the body of a lion. That is the higher and lower self. And that's what it's representative of. The higher self in control, seated at the throne. Lower self is a servant of the higher. And that's what we see throughout all of the ancient cultures. And this wisdom was returned to us and made a part of our society. Why? Because just like in ancient Egypt, this was a part of their society. It wasn't just something that you overlook like, oh, no, I don't really care about that part. That's boring. No. Let me play this.
The temple was the cradle of civilization. The priests, exercising their divine prerogative, made the laws and enforced them, appointed the rulers and controlled them, ministered to the needs of the living, and guided the destinies of the dead. All branches of learning were monopolized by the priesthood, who admitted into their ranks only those intellectually and morally qualified to perpetuate their arcana. The following quotation from Plato's states
and that is what the prophet returned to us. All right, so the prophet returned this to us. This is from Freemasonry of the Ancient Egyptians by Manly P. Hall. It says the government of ancient Egypt was theocratic. And that's what the prophet set up. A constitutional theocratic monarchy, right? So the pharaoh appeared to be the head of state, but the priests were the actual governors of the empire. So they had a theocratic government, right? It's tight. You can't remove God or the spiritual element from it. And that's why we see all the statues and even buildings and the pyramids, the Sphinx, all of these things have high spiritual meaning and definition to it. It's not just thrown out there just because it looks nice. We're not just doing it because we like the shapes of it. No, this has a spiritual meaning, as above, so below. And our whole society is going to be based off of this, right? So like, especially for people who want to say they're the ancient Egyptians, and you can't say I'm an ancient Egyptian, but I don't care about all this. Like, well, you got it twisted. That's just like saying you're more, but you don't care about us, all this stuff. It's like, no, you got it twisted, right? It says all branches of learning were monopolized by the priesthood. That's that's from Manly P. Hall's Secret Teaching of All Ages, right? So it was a part of the life, a part of the entire society, the government, everything, right? And this is how we keep things in balance. Keep it from going too far to the left or too far to the right. We keep the spiritual aspect in there. And so this is being returned to us. And since it's being returned to us, we have to come in and relearn it because we've gotten away from this. And that's why the prophet Noble Drew Ali actually put our suffering right back on us. He said we suffered because we went away from the ways of our ancestors, our forefathers and foremothers, and strayed after the gods of Europe. Went after their ways, taking on their customs. We got away from all this. Islam, so we have another hand raised.
Islam, first and foremost, I'd like to rise and give praise to Allah and honors to his Prophet Noble Drew Ali and honors to all you Muslims in attendance. I just want to add, if we go back to chapter 10, verse 24, it says, you are each one a priest just for yourself. And that just, the demonstration just reminded me of that, because we are all priests once we have this knowledge, because we can practice this in our everyday lives. And that's what the prophet wanted us to do, is to apply this knowledge and make it a way of life so that we can build our society and have the respect that all the other nations on the earth has. And that's the only thing that we're lacking. We don't have our customs and traditions because they cut us off at the source. They cut us off from all the original people and our lands. So now that we have these keys, we are to take this and build with each other. Islam.
Islam and gratitude. All right. And not only will we be able to conduct ourselves just like everyone else, which is important, right? Because everyone else has something that we don't, right? They have a culture, they have a way of, of doing things. They can get on code and everyone move in one direction, or most of them move in one direction. We don't. So we need that. But also eventually we are to be the head of all of this. All right. And we see that we still influence people all over the world, even in our lower state, even though we're stuck in our lower self, we're still influencing the world. So they, even though they don't realize it, they're waiting on us to get it right too. Okay. No one else is going to do this. That's why a prophet was sent to us. All right. And that's also why we follow this. These are divine laws. This is how we fall into the divine covenant that we have with Allah. Islam. All right. If anyone else has any questions in general or just anything they want to state or say, feel free to speak up. I yield the floor.
Islam, everybody. Brother, did you happen to find out about the kids cards, like the e-cards, like for our nationality cards?
Okay, Islam. Are you talking about the new cards?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I know that the machine that they had purchased, I think there was an issue with it. Like they need to get a new one. So
okay,
coming sometime.
Okay.
Should be like maybe in a few months. And
Okay.
did you say something about like for your children? Because like you can get them a nationality
added our children onto our nationality paperwork and things of that nature. I was wondering.
Yeah.
Brother Seymour had brought it up if our children were going to be added on as well. Like, would they get an individual card?
All right. So when you joined, you put your children down.
Yes.
And so they're not officially members because you need to be 18, but they're in there. They're written down under you. They fall up under you, and so they can get cards. They don't, have to wait. It's like we have cards for all of our children, so they can get cards.
Okay, that's what I was asking. Okay, thank you, Islam.
Yeah, so Islam. So anybody else too with children, just like if you want to get cards for your children, you can just get a card for them. Like, they don't have to fill out registration and all that. You just write their name on yours, but they can get their own cards. Like, if they're over 18 though, they have to actually join because they're adults.
Islam, brother. Thank you.
Islam. All right. Yeah. Anybody else have any questions or any statements?
I Bronson I have a couple questions. Even though it wasn't touched on in this particular meeting you guys are having, but I just want to know who was the P variable they?
Oh, like when you say they, like what are you referring to?
Well, that's what I want to know. Like I've listened to a couple speeches and things like that, and I've heard the reference per variable they. So when that is said, who is that referred to exactly?
All right. So in one instance, I had a slide up and I was talking, I had a quote from Drew Ali in Time where he's saying cut off in 1774. Your light was cut off from the ancient Moors. Hang on. Your light was cut off from the ancient Moors, and that is why Allah sent to us a prophet. Okay, and even though it's not saying they, that's kind of an example, right? Because it's like who cut their light off? Who cut their light off? Who is the they, right?
Yeah,
so you have an example right here. Excuse me. You have on the record, Henry Berry is in the Virginia House of Delegates in 1832 talking about the so-called Negro. And what does he say? We have, as far as possible, closed every avenue by which light may enter the slave's mind. Why are they in the Virginia House of Delegates talking about our people like this? That's the day. These are lawmakers. And this isn't just a rumor. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is recorded in the records of history. And this isn't even the only example. We have laws. We have Negro laws that are on the record. And it started in the 1700s, where they're describing the Negro. They, lawmakers, several of them, not just Henry Berry, several of them. And so they're all collaborating. That's the day. And they're on the record describing the Negro and making it known that the Negro is a permanent slave. So that's an example of who the they is. And it's not some spooky, invisible they. These are real people. And they're lawmakers. And they're making laws to regulate the Negro, define the Negro, and then regulate it on the record. So there's no spooky they out there. The they are real people, and they're of European descent, and they specifically made sure that they boxed these people into a category that defined them as something that has no origin, that is outside of the family of humans. And they benefited from it. That's the day. Just so that there's no confusion about that. Nobody is sitting up here saying, oh, they, we don't know who they are. No, we know who they are, and there's several of them, and it's all on the record. So there's no conspiracy about it.
Wow, that's deep.
And it's not a joke. And that's how come we take this seriously. We can't continue to go under this category that was specifically created, designed to remove these indigenous people from the family of humans. It's ridiculous. And our people didn't know about it. Why? We experienced turmoil just like everyone else in the world, but ours resulted in children getting taken away from families, sent over here, sent over there, history being wiped out, and now somehow we got boxed into this category of Negro, and that's why it's a permanent underclass. And that's why people that look like us still to this day are out here marching, talking about Black Lives Matter. That's not going to do anything. It's not. It can't work.
Right.
We're still going under this thing that was created from outside of our society. It wasn't just a nickname. It had legal ramifications, social, political, economic ramifications, keeps you at the bottom and disconnected from the family of humans. And so, yeah, we take this seriously. And no, there's no invisible they. No, they're real people. And they have power. They're making laws. So yeah, this is very serious. We don't play around with this.
Correct.
I just wanted to make sure that's understood. There's no invisible they. You know, it's easy to say that's just a pronoun that we use. Is I can't like go through hundreds of names every time, say, oh, this person, that person. No, they did it. Okay. But if you want some specifics, there's one example. We can go through several more as well. You know, who wrote the Negro Act of 1740? What about all these Black Christian codes? This is ridiculous. And why is it specifically singling us out? So there's no emotions in that. Now we need to go about correcting it. We know who we are. We don't need to ask anybody for any permission about who we are and how we identify and our connection to the human family. That didn't work out for us. That's not going to work. We need to define it. If you have any other questions, Joe, just hang on. We have another person's hands raised.
Okay.
Islam. Is that Brother Jamal?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I just was gonna add to that also. That's a lot of the thing that here lately, like especially this month, as we have Black History Month in full effect. Um, Here recently, as far as just kind of fly on with going with it. I've recently found myself in employment. I'm working with a lot of the youth here now. So as far as the history, um, a lot of it does have to do with certain laws that were in place, and that is why it's so imperative for people to know who they are first and foremost and where you fit into the world. And that's a lot of what this I feel and believe in my heart that the prophet was trying to deliver to us, so we know where we stood as far as on a geopolitical scale. Like you said, it's a holy and divine movement, and I like that's something even before I was put onto the wisdom that my foremother, my grandmother used to tell me, it's not gonna work if you don't put God in it. And that just that always resonated with me, and that's a lot of the reason why I was able to cling to the prophet and the movement and able to have the faith that I do to this day and believe that it is, a right way to go. The thing about our people is we're so used to not having that, or used to someone telling us a lie, or used to having that, proverbial foot on our neck, that it's like it's hard to believe, even when you hear the truth. A quote I don't know, I heard it recently, but it was something along the lines that when somebody tells you the perfect lie, the truth becomes unbelievable. But I just wanted to say that, and I yield the floor.
Islam, gratitude. I see the brother Jabbar has his hand up, and then open the floor up to anyone else. Before you speak, though, brother, that's why if you can see the screen on his picture, it says desolation on the right side, and then on the left side it says salvation. Has the prophet pointing to that? That's why he's ushering the people into salvation. Okay, we were stripped from the family of humans. All right, today we know that that is not some spooky, invisible thing. These are not regular people. These were people in position of power, and they made laws to remove us, okay, and define us. So we have to do something about that. Islam, brother, I yield the floor.
Praise be to Allah. I'm thankful to have been invited to the call. Great honor to have the opportunity to attend my first quote unquote temple meeting. Peace and blessings to all the Muslims on the line. I'm inspired by the great work that this temple is doing and bringing Moors together and sharing the wisdom and nationality and the wisdom of our great prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Thankful to the Grand Sheikh for taking my call the other day. I just want to share very quickly and remind us that the great prophet, Noble Drew Ali, said that nothing needs to be preached greater than economic security. As a father of five, I recognize our Grand Sheikh's beautiful family and those young Moors that are blessed to grow up and know that they are Moors and have that knowledge. My family are Moors. We are of the Judaic tradition of Moors, as you'll see the picture of 1899 in New York. My great grandfather, Bishop John Jameson Moore, the AME Zion Church, as you know, many of us Moors hid our faith for fear of the Spanish Inquisition. But our family has approximately 7 acres of property we're developing in Montgomery County, 3 different properties, all of them dedicated to agriculture, growing food. The great prophet Noble Drew Ali said that he wanted every temple to have a market. And so being in line with that, and in the time of life that we're living in during this coronavirus, we want to continue, Grand Sheikh, to have that dialogue about how that market is doable, how believers can take advantage of the opportunity to have their own plot, whether they work it or have somebody else work it. Blessings to brother Jason, who I'm connecting with our business partners in Montgomery County to go out and visit the properties. And we look forward to a good growing season, April through October. Ohio is rich in traditions of the Moorish Zionist Temple. And so I look forward to building with you further, Grand Sheik and all the Muslims on the line. Wishing you all peace and blessings. Shalom.
Islam, shalom, gratitude, brother. Maybe we can come out there and help work with the land. Appreciate you. I'm going to go ahead and open the floor back up. I don't know, Brother Bronson, if you had anything else you wanted to say?
Yes, sir. All this is very, very new to me. I like, it's almost difficult for me to process a lot of this information because I feel like I'm getting that much closer to the truth. You know what I'm saying? I just really, really appreciate all of this. I have one more question though. Do you think, or do you believe that we're all being used as pawns, and that's the rich and the poor?
Islam, definitely, like, one thing that we wouldn't try to like act like it's one ethnic group against another, or us against Europeans, even though you hear using the term Europeans. No. I think, yeah, when you look at it at the grand scale, all of us are being played. All of us. And one of the things that happened with us as a people, people that look like us, who were, for the most part, indigenous to this land, the people that came here saw a way in through the society that we already had, right? Everything that we're living in now, United States of America is based off of what our ancestors had, even the Constitution. That's based off of the Great Law of Peace. So when they first Europeans came here, we integrated them into our society and showed them how we ran things. And some of them took that and flipped it and turned it against us to take our land. And they needed numbers to do that. So they started to bring in more people from Europe who in their countries would have been at the bottom. And they enticed them by saying, hey, you don't have to be at the bottom over here. We just have to help assist in holding them down. So they played them against us, right? And, but at the end of the day, we're all being played. We're all being played. So, that's why, we stand on love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. But that's also why we're not sitting up here trying to say, oh, it's us against them. We don't do that, right? We understand that we need to get along and live in peace, with everyone that's here. And there's nothing wrong with us reconnecting to our own heritage, our own line of descent, defining who we are. And we can do that without putting other people down. We don't have to put everyone else down in order to redefine who we are. We don't have to do that, right? So that's not what we're about. But we do understand that we can work with people from all walks of life, all, creeds, religions, whatever differences. We're not concerned with that. All right. And even at a greater level, at a spiritual level, true enemy, it's just the fact that things are out of balance spiritually. The lower self is in control. Right. So that's also why we try to keep things in balance by looking at the spiritual picture. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Islam,
if I may add, that's why the Prophet teaches us to love instead of hate, because it's easy when you're uneducated and you don't know who you are to hate somebody. But when you understand that we're all connected, we're all binded by cords, that you cannot have hate for someone, because then you have hate for yourself. If we see that we're all connected and we're all tied into the human race, because there is truly only one race, then, then the balance is created. And then there's no space for anything but love. The world is definitely moving to a higher dimension. And that's why we're all starting to vibe on this level, because we're changing. We're changing with the earth. And sooner or later, everything is going to have to come into this new dimension, this new way of thinking. And that's why we're scientists. We don't deal with emotion. We just deal in science. Islam?
Gratitude.
Islam.
Yeah, gratitude. Yeah, we're moving into the new age. We're in the age of Aquarius, or we're moving into it. So definitely we need to focus on our higher purpose. We don't come together to try to put other people down, and that's also why the prophet let us know that we suffered for our own reason. Even though I'm mentioning how the light was removed from us, how legally we're defined as, something is less than. It's got to be known, because we have to do something about that, right? We can't just hide our head in the sand and act like that's not here, that's not affecting us. But at the same time, we're not blaming anyone. We suffer for our own doing. We went along with it, right? So the prophet put that back on us. We take responsibility for our reality, because ultimately we control our reality. Why? Because ultimately all is mine. All is mine. And if all is mine, that means that you control your reality. All right. So it's back on us. We take the responsibility and the power and the control over our conditions. I saw the brother Jamal had your hand up.
Yeah, just like I say, just to keep what you was saying going, and just to kind of hit on this question as well. I think as far as us finding ourselves and staying ourselves, a lot of the things that we may come across, like you say, everybody got our blood on their hairs. Historically speaking, we might come across some things that we might, as the lesson says, feel very passionate about. As the sister said, we need to love and not hate. And it's very easy to get caught, like you said, in the lower self. And then, you get lost in that, especially if you feel very passionate about something. And then, like I say, when you studying the words of the prophet, you got to remember that, like in those principles, like, again, like I say, if it don't work, it don't work if God's not in it, like I say. And then that divine aspect of things, the love, the truth, the peace, the freedom, all of those are in line with justice, will always fall through. So just like you said, I don't know, just always show the love as much as you can. You're gonna go through things in this journey that might seem a little hazier one way or the other, but as long as you abide by those principles and always show love instead of hate, everything will come together. I trust and believe.
Islam, gratitude, brother. And in alignment with what you're saying in chapter 47 of our Quran, verse 14 through 16, it says, Prophet Noble Drew Ali was sent by the great God Allah to warn all Asiatics of America to repent from their sinful ways before the great and awful day that is sure to come. Once again, putting it back on us. The time has come when every nation must worship under its own vine and fig tree, and every tongue must confess his own. Through sin and disobedience, every nation has suffered slavery due to the fact that they honored not the creed and principles of their forefathers. That is why the nationality of the Moors was taken away from them in 1774, and the word Negro, black, and colored was given to the Asiatics of America who were of Moorish descent, because they honored not the principles of their mother and father and strayed after the gods of Europe, of whom they knew nothing. So, yes, these things were done to us, but it's through sin and disobedience that every nation has suffered slavery. Right, that is why the nationality of the Moors was taken away from them in 1774. So we're not putting this on anyone, and just in that and of itself, just because our slave story keeps getting played up, and that's all we see on TV and in movies, right? We're not the only ones. Definitely not the only ones, and our people partook in the whole enslaving people thing too. All right, and so We understand this. So we're not victims. We're not up here crying, "Oh, feel bad for me." No, don't feel bad for me at all. We're powerful. I'm not a victim. We're Moors are not victims at all. And we know that, yeah, we took part in that stuff too. Maybe, me not personally, but my ancestors did, you know? So yeah, we don't play that. All right. Um, does anybody else have anything that they want to say, or any statements, anything?
Peace, peace. I just want to say that I can attest to the lessons, especially dealing with the lessons of dealing with your higher and lower nature. Coming into this, and I ain't gonna be long-winded. Coming into this, you know what I'm saying? Like, remember one of my first lessons um, at the library, and we talking about Jesus, and I'm like, why are we talking about Jesus? You know what I'm saying? It's like we went through, what I'm saying, the different lessons and stuff, and it got to the point where it was like, this is basically what needs to happen, because we can't just go forward. Because in my mind, I thought, all right, we're going to, come in here, we're going to do this. We're going to, get bills. We're going to, build. We're going to do this, and it's going to just go. But it's like, no, we got to start from square one. We got to start with self. And I can attest to the lessons. And, just if y'all, wavery, just keep coming and keep listening to the lessons and stuff, man, because I'm telling you, the stuff is on the abstract. It's on the abstract realm. It's in the realm of imagination. And once we get that tight, you can't be stopped. And that's all I want to say.
All right, Islam, gratitude. Does anybody else have anything they want to share? All right. Okay, if nobody else has anything they want to announce or share, we're going to go ahead and go into the closing of the meeting. Brother Cole Bay, would you please read the writs of the prophet?
Islam. Arise and give honors to our great God Allah. Rise and give honors to our prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Arise and give honors to our forerunner, Marcus Messiah Garvey. I rise and give honors to all Moors on this meeting. I rise and give honors to all Moors on this planet. Prophet warns all Muslims to be read at every meeting. I hereby inform all members they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, and on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be a severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their rewards from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Drew Ali, and the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans. They do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace, Noble Drew Ali. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam. This is instructions from your prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Be faithful to your forefather, divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is on now. But the weak can comprehend it not. The end of times are drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I, Noble Drew Ali. And that's why many hearts have turned to stone. Many have eyes to see, but cannot see, ears to hear, but cannot hear, lest they will be confounded of their sins. These are the trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace. Your divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. To be proclaimed at every meeting. Islam. I am glad to know I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claimed that I was a joke and unreal. But now, since they found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds, the ones that pay their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finances so badly as I do at present, so I may shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize a movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works, which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Islam, Islam, Islamism. Happy Holy Day, Moors.
All right, gratitude, brother. Brother Seymour Bay, would you please read the, divine warning?
Islam, Sheikh. First, I rise and give praise to the Most High, Father God Allah. I give honors to His Holy Prophet, Noble Drew Ali, and to the forerunner to the Prophet, the Honorable Marcus Messiah God. Honors to our forefathers and foremothers, and to all you faithful Muslims on the call. A divine warning by the Prophet for the nations. The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the names and principles that delude to slavery. I, the prophet, was prepared by the great God Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and go back to that state of mind, to their forefathers' divine and national principles, that they will be law abiders and receive their divine right as citizens according to the free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. They are to claim their own free national name and religion. There is but one issue for them to be recognized by this government and of the earth, and it comes only through the connection of the Moorish divine national movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all other nations of the world. And through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights unmolested by other citizens, that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under the free national constitution of the state's government, and not under a granted privilege, as has been the existing condition for many generations. You who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know law in the city hall and among the officials in your government and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply, for they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into light. Money doesn't make the man. It is the free national standards and power that makes the man and the nation. And the wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce, belong to the citizens alone. And without your national citizenship by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And I'm hereby calling on all true citizens that stand for a national free government and the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work, because I need all support from all true American citizens of the United States of America. Help me to save my people who have fallen from the constitutional laws of the government. I am depending on your support to get them back into the constitutional fold again, that they will learn to love instead of hate and will live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, supporting our free national constitution of the United States of America. I love my people, and I desire their unity and mine back to their own free national and divine standard, because day by day they have been violating the national and constitutional laws of their government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. If Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all other American citizens alike. In all other governments, when a man is born and raised there and asks for his national descent name, and if he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and principles, because to be a citizen of any government, you must claim your national descent name, because they place their trust upon issues and names formed by their forefathers. The word Negro deludes in the Latin language to the word nigger, the same as the word colored deludes to anything that is painted, varnished, and dyed. And every nation must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring thy fathers and thy mothers, your days will be lengthened upon this earth. These names have never been recognized by any true American citizen of this day. Through your free and national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by said national government in which they live. The 14th and 15th Amendments brought the North and the South in unit, placing the Southerners, who were at that time without power, with the constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitutional law that was enforced since 1774 declared all men equal and free. And if all men are declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since that constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendments for the salvation of our people and citizens. So there isn't but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost, and that is through the above statements. Then the lion and the lamb can lie down together in yonder hills, and neither will be harmed, because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in this land. In those days, the United States will be one of the greatest civilized and prosperous governments of the world. But if the above principles are not carried out by the citizens and my people in this government, the worst is yet to come. Because the great God of the universe is not pleased with the works that are being performed in North America by my people, and this great sin must be removed from the land to save it from enormous earthquakes, diseases, etc. And I, the prophet, do herein believe that this administration of the government, being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens that believe in their free national constitution and laws, and through the help of such classes of citizens, I, the prophet, truly believe that my people will find the true and divine way of their forefathers and learn to stop serving carnal customs and merely ideas of man that have never done them any good, but have always harmed them. So I, the prophet, am hereby calling aloud with a divine plea to all true American citizens to help me to remove this great sin, which has been committed and is being practiced by my people in the United States of America, because they know it is not the true and divine way, and without understanding, they have fallen from the true light into utter darkness of sin. And there is not a nation on earth today that will recognize them socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc., in their present condition of their endeavorment in which they themselves try to force upon a civilized world. They will not refrain from their sinful ways of action, and their deeds have brought Jim Crowism, segregation, and everything that brings harm to human beings on earth. And they have fought the Southerner for all these great misuses, but I have traveled in the South, and I have examined the conditions there, and it is the works of my people continuously practicing the things which bring dishonor, disgrace, and disrespect to any nation that lives the life. And I'm hereby calling on all true American citizens for moral support and finance to help me in my great missionary work to bring my people out of darkness into marvelous light. From the prophet, Islam, Islam, Islamism. Happy Holy Day, Muslims.
Islamism and gratitude, brother, gratitude. All right, I'm going to read the additional laws for Moorish Americans. This is by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, Act 1. Grant sheiks and governors and heads of all temples, all businesses. Each said temple must be approved by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Before acting upon by any members, let it be finance, property, or any line of life that will cause the members to sacrifice finances, etc., that will cause the support of any group of members. Any former officer that violates these laws is subject to be removed from his office under a heavy restriction, etc., by the Prophet or the Grand Sheikh. Act 2. All members are to attend their ADEP meetings and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around on their meeting period, he shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second, he will be fined $1, which will go on your emergency fund. If member is working, his monthly dues must be paid, and if he has money in the bank, he must subscribe for as much as he is able to the Moorish Uplifting Fund, because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Act 3, it is the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able in finance, to aid me in saving the nation. And if he does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch you. Let it be he or she according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I have the power invested in my hands, and I will have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Act 4, all members, while up making a public speech, must not use any assertion against the American flag or speak radical against the church or any member of any organized group, because we are to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5, all members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school, and the teacher must confirm himself to the questionnaire, and let every member exercise his 5 senses who is able to do so, because out from your Sunday school comes the guiders of the nation. Act 6, with us all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali the Prophet to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7, all members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father God Allah. Islam, Islam, Islamism. Before we close out, I do just want to put the call out there for any new members. If anyone is ready to join officially and proclaim your nationality, just let me know. If you're ready to do so now, go ahead and feel free to speak up. If not, you can contact us later on. You can also send an email to us, mission30@mstofa.net, mission30@mstofa.net. All right. Okay, all meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. If you are able to, please rise and face the east for the closing prayer. We stand facing the east. You're going to be standing on the square, feet together, heels together, feet at a 45-degree angle. And we're going to hold up our arms perpendicular, 2 fingers on the right, 5 on the left.
Allah, bind our hearts and minds back to our ancient forefathers and divine creed and principles. We ask this in thy holy name and the 7 Elohim. Amen.
Amen. Islam, Islam, Islamism. This meeting is now adjourned.
Islamism.
Islam, happy holy day.
Islam, happy holy day.
Peace and love. Happy holy day.
Peace and love.
Peace and love. Be safe out there.
Happy holy day.
Peace of love. Happy holy day.